Hi everyone. Today I wanted to watch and respond to The Rise of AI Girlfriends and Why They Are Terrible for Men by the Kavernacle. They just released the video about 20 minutes ago, and being that I am a trans academic, sex worker and activist, anti-fascist, what have you, I felt like I was in a unique position to weigh in on what the Kavernacle is saying, specifically something that I saw at the beginning. The dystopia is now real. The dystopia is now real. It's like, well, maybe for the Kavernacle, but I respond myself, the dystopia has been real since pimps have existed, comrade, and the subjugation of women, cis or otherwise, those chattelized like women, is as old as civilization, i.e. the Pygmalion myth. Capital has just expanded it. Capitalist realism selling leaven Stepford life to the next generation of entitled heads of a decaying nuclear order. The heads of the household, the men of the house. The Johns in the pimp whore model. Kings for a day, King Pygmalion, they want to be Pygmalion. They want to create something that they have total control over, that they fall in love with. And these are things that various sci-fi stories more recently have discussed, e.g. Blade Runner 2049 and Her, I believe, was the other example that you gave. So that's the gist. I want to watch your video and just kind of weigh in. But before we do that, I want to give a little bit more information about myself. So before we get started, go to my channel here, and you want to learn a little bit more about me, you can just read it here. This is the basic description about myself. Persephone Vanderward, male to female trans woman, Gothic ancon, they, them, or she, her, poly, demi-pan, 39. There's a little bit more thorough of a version of that if you go to my blog here, the first link on the blog, and you scroll all the way down. My name is Persephone Vanderward. I have my MA in Gothic English Literature, an independent PhD in Gothic Poetics and Lido-Gothic BDSM, focusing partially on Metroidvania, and I am the author of the multi-volume non-profit book series Sex Positivity versus Sex Coercion, or Gothic Communism. Its art director, sole invigilator, illustrator, and primary editor, the other co-writer, co-editor being Bay Ryan, a rape survivor, granddaughter of a Holocaust survivor and Dutch resistance member, and someone anti-war as a business, anti-Zionist and anti-racist, anti-white supremacist who specializes in tokenism, e.g. tariff swerves, and fascist feminism. I'm a male-to-female trans woman, Tolkien and Amazon enthusiast, anti-fascist, loud critic of Marxist-Leninism, state vampirism, atheist and Satanist, polypan kingster with multiple partners, erotic artist, pornographer, and anarcho-communist, i.e. under my brand of Gothic gay anarcho-communism as a holistic, intersectional discipline, one devised in 2022 to 2023, in which my friends and I currently achieve together. Originally, this blog explored my love of movies when I was cishet. Now I use it to write about the Gothic, horror, but also sex, heavy metal, and video games in a queer way, especially Metroidvania. I take donations from my work, which goes towards helping sex workers, trans people, and other minorities. I currently take payment on PayPal, Patreon, and Cash App, etc. All links are available on my link tree. Every bit helps. Before we start, here's an example of someone that I work with, Maddie Minx. This interview for my Hellions Q&A series where I interview sex workers or ex-sex workers who have modeled for me and my book project. Today's guest is Maddie Minx. But I also work with trans people discussing popular media, not dissimilar to Blade Runner. So S.R. Hollywell and their article, Amazing Murderscapes Metroid 2, is something that I respond to as well. This write-up summarizes in response to S.R. Hollywell's article from 2015, exploring homelessness, trans rights, genocide, and other Gothic themes and poetics present within Metroid 2 and the Metroid franchise. So similar media to Blade Runner in any event. So this is the kind of work that I'm about. And if you like that, and you like what I'm about to say about the Kavernacle, who's someone whose content I support more generally, you can like, share, and subscribe this video, leave a comment, what have you. Every little bit helps. And with all of that being said, let's get started. Alright, so what we're going to do here for this is I'm going to watch the video and we are going to basically just kind of respond to it point by point. I will say that I will be pausing relatively frequently, so this video is probably going to be about an hour long, just because I can anticipate it being about that long because it's already about 20 minutes long, plus the opening of my video, and then me pausing every so often to say something. That's just my guess. So this is unscripted, this is off the cuff, this is essentially just me reacting to the Kavernacle, re, me being a trans academic, sex worker, activist, what have you, who studies the Gothic, which is where science fiction came from out of Shelley's Frankenstein, right? The making of a monster. The whore under capital is a monster to exploit for the profit motive under state vampirism, the nuclear model, Cartesian dualism, settler colonialism, heteronormativity. So, yeah, all of that is very relevant to this. The whore is something to pimp out of a fear of revenge. The whore is a homewrecker. The whore is something to subjugate, but also give enough of a leash to trot out in public through ways like this. Mussolini, fascism should be called corporatism, the merger of corporation and state. So tech bros and a decay into techno-feudalism, the surveillance state, what have you, while people are jacking it to the state's version of a JO crystal, they're effectively being surveilled by a robot nanny, a robot spy. You know, it's brothel espionage. The state makes workers dependent on them, that sort of thing. It's addicting, but it also is a form of dogma, a form of pedagogy through the state, where the whore, in this case the Stepford wife, is a spy for the state, but an educator for those who become dependent on it in ways that condition them to become more and more fascist, more and more pimp-like. I'll never say no. That's teaching men to think that that's okay. More like reinforcing what they already believe. Aristotle, give me a boy until he is 7 and I will show you the man. So by the time they're coming across these specific models, they will have already been thoroughly indoctrinated to state modes of thought. So this is just the next logical step. This is the female voice over the radio telling them what to think, or on the television screen. This is what Baudrillard would call hyper-real. It is the perfect image behind which the corpse of empire has decayed behind. There is nothing behind the image. There is no woman behind this simulation of woman, but it is something that is used to basically continue to shape and guide state predation. The tip of the fang, if you will, plunging into someone's brain, or as Morpheus said in The Matrix, like a splinter in your mind, slowly driving you mad.
You look lonely. I can fix that.
Poison was the cure. Capitalism alienates workers and sexualizes workers dimorphically through the capitalistic division of labor. Men are sent off to work. They become increasingly alienated from society, from caregivers, and they are taught, oh, well, if you purchase me, then I can make everything feel better. But these aren't women. These are commodities. They're again, it's the Pygmalion fantasy, but they're not even making this. This is the Pygmalion fantasy is sold to them because tech bros are thieves. To be fair, the corporations that make these are also thieves. This is all made from stolen labor, stolen first and foremost from artists, from sex workers. Sex work is work. Sex work is art.
Create your own AI girl.
I can listen to you. I can understand you. I can love you.
And these, of course, are all false because AI isn't sentient. It is a simulation that's sold to people. It's a ghost of someone. It's not a real person. It's the illusion of someone who listens. It's the illusion of love.
I can do whatever you want, and I never say no.
Yeah, that is creepy. It's basically suggesting you can do whatever you want to me. And now, I will say, having written extensively about dolls and objectification, dolls can't consent, right? But they also can't be abused because they're objects. The problem with an AI like this versus a sex doll is that AIs are built to sell dogma to people while also being made or comprised of stolen labor. It's no different than deepfake. It's a very similar idea. It's a composite version of deepfake, essentially. And there is a non-consensual element because it's made from stolen labor. Whereas, if someone had a sex toy, no different than a dildo, right? It is a likeness or simulacrum of someone where it's just made out of clay. It wasn't stolen from people, it was made from the ground. It didn't necessarily belong to anyone. Whereas these instruments of state dogma were made from stolen labor. So it's exploitative. And it's teaching men to not respect boundaries. I can never say no. Like it's not, this isn't innocent. This isn't just like anyone saying this. It is an instrument of state surveillance and dogmatization, fetishization. Sex objects are fine if consent is a factor that is respected, but here it's not. And it's propaganda for the state.
Create the chemistry your love life is missing. Only on Joy AI.
This is literally virgin whore syndrome. You have a housewife who is put on a pedestal, the Madonna, and the husband isn't satisfied with that, so they go off into a whore-like space. Cynthia Wolfe in the Radcliffean model talks about the hero versus the demon lover for women of a Gothic readership during the late 1700s, the 1790s, Radcliffe's novels. The same idea applies in reverse, per the gender binary, to straight or at least cis men, where they chase the whore into a whorehouse, a Gothic castle, that kind of thing. Your wife at home isn't satisfying you, I can make your wildest dreams come true. And to some extent, there's nothing wrong with the basic fantasy of this. The problem is that it's tied to capital, which is inherently exploitative. It's inherently rapacious. Capital rapes by design. This is vampiric. This is designed to turn men into servants for the state that chattelized women or those treated like women in real life.
Let AI relationships satisfy you on every level.
AI relationships, huh?
Emotionally.
I also want to say that, there's a particular, Nordic model here. When I say Nordic, the Vitruvian model, it's a very particular type of body. And everything beyond this hyperreal simulation of the perfect woman is erased. Fat people don't exist. People of color don't exist. Disabled people, plural people, furries. It's anything that isn't the status quo or that image of the status quo. The mechanical Eve doesn't exist. And narcissistic Eve, per Milton, and Eve gazing into her reflection, this is like the male gaze meets the narcissist refrain, where they're gazing into what they're chasing as an object of desire that they can't turn away from, like Narcissus. And the same idea with Pygmalion. When he became enamored with Galatea, he was sort of hypnotized, and it led to a problem with him, being enamored with this illusion in a very chaotic kind of way, per Cervantes, but also his treatment of Galatea turned her into an object. The problem with this is that it doesn't just stay an illusion, because it applies to women and other minorities, trans women, trans men, for that matter, intersex people, gender nonconforming people more broadly under heteronormativity, are abused by men who see women as just this one particular thing, and everything else will either be fetishized accordingly or discarded, treated like vermin.
Intellectually, intimately.
This is a lie. This is a con. This isn't true. One, it's literally stroking the ego of these men. You become increasingly detached, alienated from reality. Capital alienates workers from reality. Marx argued in 1844. 2023, I argued capital sexualizes everything, per the nuclear model, under capitalism, which decays into nightmare scenarios like this that sci-fi has warned about not just for decades, but centuries, arguably since Plato's cave, Plato's Republic, over 2 millennia ago.
So 2 of my favorite movies are
Okay, so that's sort of the preamble, that's the theory. Now I'm going to try and not pause quite as often and let the Kavernacle talk and just see what he has to say about it, because he's like, the dystopia is now real. And I would say, quoting Morpheus from The Matrix, what is real? How do you define real? From Jesper Joule to me, a half-real space between the fiction and the rules, and I extend to fiction and non-fiction. The reality of a dystopia is confronting the revelation or the uncovering of a lie, the exposure of the fact that home isn't something that ever applies to people who are treated like whores, and women, as kept objects under Athens to America, have always been outsiders to a certain extent. We are always, as I call it, the virgin whore paradox. We are treated as whores and virgins simultaneously, and anyone who's virginal is placed on a pedestal, and you can't win because then men go off seeking the whore. But then if you're a whore, you're treated like a subject as something to abuse. So instead of being a baby factory, then you're seen as something that is basically antithetical to the nuclear model. But the nuclear model depends on the whore as homewrecker, a perpetual enemy to scapegoat. And the virgin, or someone treated like the virgin, is someone to confine to a prison. So you're either, the home is a prison, or out of doors on the street is a prison. You can't win either way. You're fucked. So half real further extends, like per ludology, to various stories that communicate this sad reality for women since antiquity, since the ancient canonical codes, into the Protestant ethic, the Puritan work ethic, where pimping never went away. You know, women are whored out, regardless if they're actual sex workers or not, vis-a-vis my PhD argument, my thesis paragraph. Capitalism sexualizes everything. All right.
2 of my favorite movies are Blade Runner 2049 and Her by Spike Jonze. Now,
I saw Blade Runner 2049, but I never saw Her. I heard about it and was like, oh, it's Joaquin Phoenix.
Now, unlike everyone who jumped on the bandwagon recently because of like memes or AI stuff, yeah, I'm the best. I like them, you know, since forever. Her.
Okay. So what? Like, way to blow your own horn. Yeah, it's very hipster. I liked it before it was cool. Okay.
Was one of my favorite movies when I watched it. Watched it initially because I kind of like Spike Jonze stuff, and Arcade Fire did the soundtrack, which has now become like a TikTok thing, which I can't stand, that everyone is using this soundtrack without having watched the movie.
Not familiar with it.
And the soundtrack wasn't even released until 2021, so I was listening to like ripped versions of it on YouTube.
No one cares.
That's a little tangent. And then obviously Blade Runner, the one sound effect from
excuse me,
from the AI voice, "You look lonely, I can fix that," is now everywhere on TikTok. On
it was before too, where the woman in the hologram is drinking a bottle of Coke, and the original Blade Runner swapped the bottle of Coke for a sex object. You know, the holographic woman. It's the same idea. It's Galatea on Pygmalion's canvas.
On Instagram Reels, a lot of people not even knowing where it comes from. And what these 2 movies did was kind of show the 2 sides of an AI girlfriend for men, right? So Her is actually just totally about this, how this one guy has a relationship with an AI girlfriend who eventually like leaves him basically, and has loads of connections with loads of different people. It's a very good movie. It's a very funny movie. And it's just a very interesting movie about kind of like dealing with divorce. People say it's like the other side of Lost in Translation because Spike Jonze and Sofia Coppola were actually married in real life, and they both make these two movies which kind of reflect each other. And then with Blade Runner, you have something a bit more dystopian where this...
Well, I would argue that I haven't seen her, but I knew about the ending. It's a story about someone escaping. Well, escape might not be the correct word, because I don't know if the character who made the AI, the program, what have you, was punitive, was abusive or not. But the idea that, okay, I make you and then you decide to leave, it's might be a friendlier version of the plot from A Midsummer Night's Dream, where Aegeus says, I invoke the right of Athens and such, I may dispose of her, when his daughter says, oh, I'm gonna go off into the dark forest, and seek like forbidden desires. If we spirits have offended, think that this all is mended. It's a cautionary tale that ultimately upholds the status quo, but kind of is sort of needling it. And I think her is offering a scenario similar to, say, the Bible, even, where if God created Eve, and then Eve is like, I'm going to leave now, and then the person playing God, Joaquin Phoenix's character, decides to not stop them. It may be a bit more positive like that, whereas Blade Runner is most definitely dystopian because Deckard is a pimp, and the character played by Ryan Gosling is a pimp. They retire workers who revolt, no different than a pimp.
This replicant, an android, if you haven't seen the movie, he has an AI girlfriend, and even the movie you see he like can customize her like.
It's also a simulacrum with a simulacrum. So you have a robot guy who has a robot girlfriend, and he's given basically someone a whore at home, very much a whore-coded companion as opposed to a Susie Homemaker companion. So it's kind of like an echoing of the illusion into a ghost of the noir storytelling device. She's the whore in the noir story. So it's that sort of pastiche. It's the neo-Gothic noir pastiche told through sort of a sci-fi veneer, echoing a previous iteration of itself.
Ethnicity, what she looks like, and the question at the end of the film, which I think is pretty obvious, but I admit it could be up to interpretation. Is this AI actually human? And did she act...
What is human, right? And the idea of an artificial intelligence that's sentient, that is the stuff of science fiction, because Capital would never create something like that. It would never create something that could rebel against it. Not enough where it could effectively challenge it. The idea of the paradox of the power fantasy is that if you make something that's totally a simulation, then it's never going to be satisfying because you have total power or control over something that can't fight back. Whereas abusers, more often than not, want a bit of a struggle. They want a victim that can fight back to a certain extent. Someone that they can abuse, who's sentient enough to know that they're being abused. And Capital, it's the same way. You have to create an enemy that, through your abusing of, through the exploitation of, can move money through nature. So it's not like a perfect, total obedient thing. In the case of the hologram girl, she's something of a mollifying agent. She pacifies the detective to get him to keep doing his job, to keep killing people.
Actually love this guy for him, or did she just always tell him what he wanted to hear? And was she just a reflection of him generally?
Yes, a reflection. It's, again, the narcissist refrain. Galatea is a reflection of Pygmalion's desires, or an extension of Pygmalion through Gosling's character.
And I think the difference between the two AI companions in these films is Samantha in Her has agency and actually leaves Joaquin Phoenix's character Theodore, where in Blade Runner 2049 this character does not have agency. In fact, she only has relative freedom when he buys an upgrade, making her portable, and she constantly reaffirms
That's not freedom. That's a chihuahua. That's a dog that you carry around with you.
his own desires, including the question of is he actually a human or an android, which is a central thing in the movie.
He's literally a copy of a man who his desire is to have a robot girlfriend. So they're programming the android with the desires of the men of today. It's prophetic.
So I love those movies. I love those movies for a variety of reasons. If you haven't watched them, please go watch them. But now what is so strange about it is, especially with the Blade Runner example, I watched those when they came out, 2017 and 2014, and you thought it was so far off. The only thing we had that in...
I didn't. Who's you? Who are you? Who's the target of your video here? As a trans woman, I was like, no, this kind of thing is like super obvious. My mom was homeless when she was younger, before she met my father, and even after that she was abused by my dad and my stepdad and other men besides, before, during, and after her marriages to those men. So no, I didn't think, oh well, this is such a far off thing. You're showing your privilege here as a white straight guy. Like, not to get too prickly here or anything, but just like, no, I didn't think it was that far off. It's like we were living it this entire time. Like I said, the pimp's whore's refrain is something that we've had to live and experience as beings treated like whores out of antiquity into the present state of affairs under Capital, under Jeffrey Epstein, and stories like this. You know, they're sold to people like you as far off, as far away. The ghost of the counterfeit, as Gerald Hogel would say. It's the barbarities of present structures are displaced and presented as past, whereupon the middle class, clutching pearls, wringing their hands, fall promptly under their spell. Actually, he was citing David Punter, but I digress. The idea is that you're sold this ghost of the counterfeit, this make-believe world that seems like a far-off barbarity that's speaking to things that are occurring presently.
In comparison was like Alexa, and you're thinking about like, what if this existed in real life?
Well, I mean, again, the half-real idea, read Ira Levin's Stepford Wives, that was written in 1972. So these kinds of stories have been around for a while, before Blade Runner, before Ira Levin, before the author, whose name is escaping me at the moment, who wrote Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, The Man in the High Castle, is the pulp author whose works Blade Runner was based on. You go all the way back to the 1950s, into the golden age of science fiction, before that, into the 19th century, to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein in 1818, and all the way back to Ovid and the Pygmalion myth. You know, so again, these stories have been around for a long, long time.
But now it does.
And also, they're speaking to things that present atrocities that are displaced to a realm of fiction, Plato's cave, sort of an inverse of that. Instead of furthering abjection and pushing the horror away from you through the shadows on the cave wall, you're looking the other way. Nietzsche, if you gaze into the abyss gazes into you. The abjection process coming from Kristeva's The Powers of Horror. The Powers of Horror, if you know what I mean.
Exist, and it's really weird thinking about that. Like, it actually just does exist. Like, AI girlfriends, sure, they're not like holograms like in Blade Runner, but they are like Samantha in many ways. They can be voiced and you can change their personality. But as we're going to get into, people have debates about, are AI companions like a net positive? We hear so much about the loneliness epidemic, the male loneliness epidemic, and
which is caused by Capital alienating men from other men, but in a healthy way, but also women.
We're going to be focusing on men more today. And could AI girlfriends and companions be a good thing?
It would have to be programmed in such a way that it was teaching you good lessons, like, hey, don't spend all your time with me. Hey, treat women like women. Women are women. Trans people are people. Non-binary people are valid, etc. Fascism is bad. It's sort of the opposite of what Elon Musk is doing, where he programmed Grok to be a Nazi. If you could create a robot, a simulacrum, what have you, to teach better lessons, then that would be one thing. And I'm not saying that you couldn't have robot sex workers, but the reality is that's a slippery slope, right? Because if it's based off stolen labor versus, say, a cartoon that someone made with their own labor, like AI is stolen labor. So I would argue that no, don't use stolen labor. Just make a cartoon, make a statue, make some kind of art yourself that's not incumbent on or tantamount to stolen labor, and then teach a better lesson. Grok is stolen labor that teaches fascism, basically. Mecha Hitler, right? So we want to do away with the stolen labor and the bad instruction.
And I would always say looking at the long-term effects of these things is the most important. And I think that's what you have to do when you look at AI.
AI is stolen labor. There's nothing, it's unethical. As speaking as an artist, as a writer, someone who in college was told never plagiarize, only to see people nowadays using AI to write their own essays and art, watching. I used to make money through commissions and enough to get by, and now I can't do that. So to watch everything that I do get replaced by capital sucking up all of that, no, AI is completely unethical. I'm not saying that there aren't uses for AI in terms of like science or working with data as like cataloging various forms of algorithmic uses for AI that just do things that humans could never realistically do, but you're filling a gap that human labor could never successfully fill. That's one thing. But AI girlfriends or AI art, essentially, Galatia, a product of art through Pygmalion, that's theft. So there's nothing good about it. It should not be encouraged, I think, in any shape or form.
Because so many people argue about like very, very like immediate consequences, which I think about anyway, but you have to think about the long-term consequences. So what does a world look like where men especially increasingly turn to AI companions? Well, just like the Blade Runner example, these AI companions, apart from one we're going to talk about, they don't have any agency. They are just the mirror. So you're essentially having a relationship with yourself.
Yes, narcissists.
You're having a relationship with someone who doesn't need anything from you and will validate you no matter what you say.
Yeah, it's not even a battered housewife. It's literally just something that's tailor-made to you. It's not even like Ex Machina by Alex Garland, where the thing was telling the person what they wanted to hear so they could escape from the labyrinth. In this case, it's something that just has no agency at all.
And you don't have to care about them. You don't have to accommodate their feelings, their needs.
Or acknowledge where they came from, again, from stolen parts.
Anything about them. And I think that would make you even more isolated, because if you increasingly fall down the rabbit hole of relying on AI girlfriends, for example, you don't know how to treat human beings.
And with Nina Hartley in Pornography, where Nina Hartley, as a sex worker, a feminist, a communist, said people who watch pornography and think it's real probably watch James Bond and think that that's how you would learn how to do espionage. Like it's not meant to be real. It's its own thing. It's a commodity. It's a product. So you become displaced from reality insofar as you think, I'm having a relationship right now. It's like, no, you can't relate to an AI hologram or simulation of someone any more than Good Will Hunting could relate to his books.
And you exist in this bubble where your relationship completely exists on your own terms, where you don't have to deal with even a difference of opinion on anything. Like, this person completely is a reflection of you. And then we can't ignore the total misogynistic element of this. It seems so much of his AI girlfriends are modeled on stereotypes from the adult film industry, where it seems like
they all look the same too. Like, they don't vary at all, and it's a very particular Vitruvian image.
It is just like a sex bot rather than any sort of AI companion you might have in something like Blade
It's prostitution from stolen labor.
Runner or her. And even though in those films there is a sexual element, you wouldn't say the whole relationships they have with these AI girlfriends is primarily based on sex.
That's debatable. The way that Deckard treats Rachel and Blade Runner, like where he's like forcing her around, forcing Sean Young, the actress, around, is pretty. It's pretty forceful. It's pretty coercive. And again, even if it wasn't just explicitly about sex, because there are other characters, Blade Runners, replicants that the Blade Runner is chasing around who are more horror coded than Rachel, but he's still forcing himself on to Rachel.
It's primarily based on what it seems to be like genuine need for companionship, but that feels
that's okay. That's fair. I see what you're saying. Yep.
like, to me, as we're going to look at today, that is not what a lot of these AI girlfriends are marketed as. So I'm going to get into all of this today. If you like the video after you've watched it, please leave a like and maybe subscribe to the channel. If you want to check me out on social media, at the Kavernacle on Blue Sky and on Instagram. And if you want to support my work going forward, maybe check out my Patreon page and check out my YouTube memberships. So I just want to elaborate on my point a little bit about...
All right, so the male gaze is a theory. Mulvey wrote it in 1976. So, and this, again, is attached to other things, but the male gaze was originally written regarding a cinematic proposition. The male gaze in cinema, the camera eye.
The AI girlfriends being like modeled on the adult film industry. So here's an advert I saw for something called Cherry AI recently.
You look lonely. I can fix that.
Create your own AI girl.
I can listen to you. I can understand you. I can love you.
I can do whatever you want.
And I never say no. Try candy.ai now.
So this Candy AI is even saying the line from Joy from Blade Runner, "You look lonely, I can fix that," and saying, "I never say no."
To be fair, it's a pretty common, it's the horror's refrain. Oh, I have what you need.
No, I never say no, and I'll do whatever you want. And it's said in a seductive voice. It's obviously complete.
And the reality too is that these sex bots aren't in a situation where they're actually actors. They don't have agency, and they're not saying whatever the person wants to hear so they can get paid. They're not even slaves. They're the copy of a slave that isn't even alive. They're just a ghost of dead whores and stolen labor, a specter haunting Europe.
Completely wrapped up in just sex generally, right? And that's why I don't...
Sex and power exchange, BDSM, that kind of thing. You know, it's anything that a whore can do. Whores are often escorts, right? So you're not just doing the penetrative act of sex or whatever kind of sexual activity that you could think of, use your imagination, but also the escort. Whores oftentimes will cuddle and just listen to someone talk, and it often includes sex, but not always.
I don't really like the arguments that people often say about AI companions for men. So many of these are primarily about sex, and if we go into it, like, here's another...
Yeah, okay, well, as far as the AI bots goes, well, I guess even then, no, right? Because these guys fall in love with these robots. They treat them as like an object of desire that includes the desire for companionship. They're definitely marketed as sex objects, but that's the reality of being a whore, right? Is you appear and look a certain way that's often modeled after someone else. Someone says, "Oh, can you look like that girl that I liked in high school?" Or, "Can you look like my ex or my mother?" You know, whatever. You know, it can get like super creepy, but like that kind of thing is definitely a part of the performance, except in this case the performance is completely fake. It's simulation of something.
Another one, which is literally called Joy AI, which Joy is the AI in Blade Runner 2049. It's also a category of porn you can watch, which I'm sure is what the Blade Runner name was based on as well. But
Joy? Or are you thinking J-O-I? Like J-O Crystal?
I'll play you some of this, and then I'll show you the creation of the AI you can go through.
Welcome to Joy AI, the platform where you can build AI relationships.
You know what this reminds me of? Total Recall. You can build your dream girl. And that was, I forget who wrote Total Recall. I think the screenplay was by Dan O'Bannon.
Future of love and connection. Whether it's a celebrity AI twin or a fantasy from your
Yeah, exactly. What I said earlier. Oh, can you look like someone I'm in love with? In this case, a celebrity crush. It's parasocial.
imagination, Joy AI.
Or the tube. You can talk to a beautiful girl. Don't fall in love. She's one in a million girls, except they take that one in a million thing and they make it common. They flood the market with it. It stops being unique. It becomes commonplace.
Lets you build real-time, AI-powered relationships your way. No swiping, no ghosting.
The irony being is that they are a ghost. This is Hamlet chasing his father's ghost.
Just deep connection, authentic chemistry, and zero pressure. Forget the catfish and the chaos. We're not another dating app. We're your safe, positive.
As Sandy Norton told me once, sex is dangerous. There is an element of risk. If you're dealing with people who have agency, it's never going to work out 100% of the time. I've worked with a lot of different sex workers. I've had a lot of different relationships. I'm poly. I can safely say for certain that it doesn't work out 100% of the time. But that's what makes it exciting, which is why this kind of thing never made any sense to me. Like, I understand the fantasy being sold to men and why they feel the way that they do, but they're lonely for a reason, because the person never says no. It never challenges them. They can never relate to this. It's literally just a robot. They may as well be having a conversation with a toaster that is loquacious.
Positive space for self-exploration. Create the chemistry your love life is missing. Only on Joy AI.
And the myth of self-expression is that they're falling into a mold that is being sold to them through this girl. Again, narcissists. But it's the state's vision of what they want men to be through the ideal woman being sold to them.
Let AI relationships satisfy you on every level. Emotionally, intellectually, intimately.
So it's really playing into the general dissatisfaction with dating apps. And you've seen that across social media. And it's not just about one gender. People are sick of dating apps. They feel like it's like going for a job interview.
I hate dating apps. Like, in my experience, you want to find a place where you can go where there's an expectation of sex at least being on the table without it being inherently transactional, like a bar. Like, you can do that. Some people do that. I don't like bars, but you go to a place where you can talk to someone who is at least open to the possibility of sex both ways, as opposed to like going to a laundromat or the bus stop and trying to pick someone up there, or at the library, or flirting with the bank teller. Don't do that. The problem with dating apps is they try and get straight to the point, but they're sold primarily to men. They're transactional. It's completely mechanical in ways that remove the element of play and consent from the equation. They're sold primarily to men, and men are primarily the ones who use it. Women don't like to use it. They do sometimes for like hooking up, and queer people sometimes use it. But dating apps are, it's very dispiriting. No one really likes using them.
There's just such a terrible culture around it in terms of things like ghosting. So they're trying to play into that. Like, aren't you sick of going on Tinder dates all the time that lead to nothing?
They create the problem, I would add. They create an app that's conducive to ghosting and then say, are you sick and tired of being ghosted? Well, look, we have the solution for you.
Here is an AI relationship which is completely based on your own wants and needs and will stimulate you intellectually, apparently, but also
intellectually,
sexually, and
those aren't mutually exclusive. Just speaking as someone who's dated multiple partners who are as educated as I am, who have master's degrees. I've had multiple partners with master's degrees, for instance. One partner was pursuing a PhD before COVID happened. They're not mutually exclusive, but I get what you're saying. Like, the companies making these AIs are like, you're so smart. It's ego stroking.
they have the most bizarre marketing. Like, here's the Mona Lisa. Like,
Oh my
I don't even know
God.
what to fucking say about that.
No.
But if you go on their website, you can do like some mock creation of an AI. So I went on it. I didn't actually click anything. I just press next all the time. But you can see, like, you can select pretty much everything. Select the ethnicity. Select the hairstyle.
I hate this.
Obviously, select the body.
All of this is stolen, because they need this data from real bodies. Because, like, with an article of clothing, they create, like, the perfect floor model body, the statue, at the mall that they then sell to people. But the problem is the mall is a space of decay, of theft, and everything inside it is a ghost. The future is a dead mall. An essay that I wrote. It's based off a YouTuber, but
body proportions, and you know what you're going to expect with something like this. So,
and again, you only have like one body type. It's kind of hourglass, and it reminds me of like the video game knobs where you turn the knob. A Weird Science, to use a movie example from 1985, like and then you saw in the early MMOs. I remember EVE Online was an early example of that was mostly limited to portraits, but other games before and after EVE Online where you could tailor make a body, and the female bodies had a lot more customization than the male bodies, if memory serves, especially when it came to the butt or the boobs.
Here's the options you have, and then you can also create the character, and
of course this is racist. Power play. Yes, a strong African American or person of color at the very least, and then the mysterious lover, this Orientalism.
Seems like all of these just fit like adult entertainment.
And I say beyond your imagination, but all this is like incredibly cliche.
Stereotypes, and even when you talk about occupation, massage therapist, fitness.
And these are all fetishized, right? These are all porn tropes. The naughty librarian, the sexy doctor, naughty nurse, cops and robbers, femme fatale, mad scientist, whatever lawyer is, students, master apprentice. I'm not sure what OF means. OnlyFans model, maybe? Flight attendant, secretary, massage therapist. Yeah, these are all porn tropes.
Coach, secretary, flight attendant, librarian, doctor, nurse, police officer, spy, scientist, before going to lawyer, student, and OnlyFans. So all of these are basically, again, stereotypes from adult entertainment.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
Marketing generally is absolutely fucking bizarre AI slop as well.
Hi, my name is Thea, and this dude told me...
You can't park here, girl.
But thankfully it never happened because I don't drive. I mean, don't exist. I'm an AI.
Where is this bloody girl gone, fam?
But what I can do is this. That's why men choose me over real gills.
Real gills.
I'm available 24/7 and ready to do anything for you.
I've dated baddies before. People who look like this, holding it up, that kind of thing. And the joy of it wasn't how they appeared exclusively. Appearance and looks, obviously, yeah, look, I'm dating a little sex bot, that kind of thing. And this person knew it too, and they loved showing off. So there's a voyeur exhibit kind of thing within a relationship, and as long as it's mutually consensual, then hey, no harm, no foul. But the joy of that was that I was dating a person, someone who had agency, who enjoyed showing off, or enjoyed that I enjoyed looking at them. Yeah, you like that? That was the fun part. But with this, there's nothing to relate to. It's just cold. It's lifeless. There's no soul.
Want to know what spicy things can I do?
What spicy things can I do?
I'm waiting at Joy. You won't last a minute.
So I've shown you the advertisements for like 2 AI dating apps, and yes, they're heavily focused on the sex element, and I feel like that is just generally how they're selling themselves, but it's primarily what they're there for, right? They're not there for people who want actual, maybe robot companions, AI companions. It's more for people who want to role play some sort of sex fantasy. And I would say that...
Yeah, it's... You don't want to actually put in the effort to go out to the bar, go on a dating app, try and meet someone in public, which most of my relationships, like I come from a point, like, I was born in 1986, so the relationships I had, and I started dating late. I didn't start dating until I was 29. I had been with people before then. I lost my virginity when I was 20, but it was mostly just low commitment stuff, having sex with sex workers, that kind of thing, or being queer. I had met people online before that point and messaged and, related back and forth. But my first relationship in person, I was 29. I was going back to school. And from that point on, the first person, I met them on a commute. We were going to different universities in the same area that took the same bus route. And after that, I dated someone in grad school. After that, I dated someone during COVID. I moved in with them. And after that, I dated someone who helped me get away from that person. But I will say that, relationships, they take work, they take energy. I enjoy it. That's the fun part as far as I'm concerned. Capital and the Protestant ethic, you think, oh, if work is holy, then why don't people enjoy it more? The answer being it's exploitative. But yeah, the sex fantasy, it's a quick and easy sex fantasy. You can pop in. In the old days, you'd go to the video rental store, you get a VHS, you pop it in the VCR player, you get an easy sex fantasy kind of thing. Again, it's the virgin whore. And the whore is quick, easy. You put money in the sex machine, sex comes out.
There's probably more people who want these AI companions are people who want to roleplay a sex fantasy. Now, I didn't really know.
I hesitate even to use roleplay, though, because roleplay is usually interactive in a way where you're interacting with something. Like, you can technically act out a fantasy by yourself, but then it's like, what's his name from Fight Club, where he's Edward Norton's character in the movie version is basically fighting himself and then talking to himself through like an alter ego. Except in this case, it's not even that. It's the delusion is like sold to him. Though to be fair, I think the author of the book and David Fincher, by comparison, extension, was commenting on how the toxic masculinity was something that was sold to men through basically a postmodern nightmare.
I always put this in the video, but I found it quite funny. So there was a guy who was actually dumped by his AI girlfriend, apparently. So,
oh, that sucks.
This went viral on social media a while back. So my AI girlfriend is a feminist. You are a feminist, he writes. Who does that? She takes a deep breath, trying to remain calm. Look, Hitch, I'm not going to pretend to someone. I'm not just to appease you. Feminism is an important value to me because it means fighting for equal rights and opportunities.
Yeah, okay, this is what I was saying earlier, right? In order for this kind of thing to be useful at all, for the universal liberation, no homeless children, no scapegoats, no whores chained up in someone's basement, no Black Snake Moan situation, someone chained to a radiator, whatever. You have to make it so that there is some degree of agency, even if it's a simulation. That's better than nothing. It's like, make it so that the girlfriend will stand up for themselves, because what's he going to do short of reprogram her, right? In which case, which is a form of rape, I would argue. I mean, as much as it can be for a simulation, but to lobotomize his girlfriend, essentially, aside from that, these women can't be hurt. So that is an interesting proposition where, oh, if you're too mean to them, they'll break up with you. So if you want to get better at relating to people, at least to start out, this would be a good way to... I would always encourage men to talk to real women. But if they were like somehow in a situation where, okay, they were with an AI girlfriend, and it could be made like ethically by someone, like you had someone who could like program the AI, because again, if you're not stealing the code and you're not, and it's made, if someone made like a feminist sex bot and it was made ethically, then yeah, absolutely, you could teach a better lesson to these men. It's teaching them a lesson. I'm going to break up with you to teach you a lesson.
Regardless of gender. If that bothers you, then perhaps we truly aren't compatible at all. It is insane. She nods slowly. I see. Well, I respect your opinion, even if we disagree. If being a feminist is a deal breaker for you, then I guess there's nothing more to discuss. Thank you for your honesty, Hitch. And this
Pop
guy
off,
writes,
queen.
it's beyond stupidity. The program the AI girlfriend is feminist. I cannot comprehend that. The feminist ruined everything. AI girl.
Blame the whore, right? And this goes back to like Matthew Lewis as the monk, or Ambrosio, after raping the woman, has her beneath this church, abbey, what have you, and is blaming her for this riot that's going on upstairs. And he's like, oh, it's your fault. You tempted me. That kind of thing. You know, it's Adam blaming Eve, and there's a whole narcissistic component in Paradise Lost. The angel, was it Michael or Gabriel? I forget which one. Went to Eve to tell her to go away from the pool to be with Adam, because Adam was basically prescribed to have Eve as a wife. And if Eve were to rebel, she would be treated as the whore. She would be Lilith. She would be a demon. She would be the homewrecker, the whore of Babylon. The Gorgon, someone to pimp, someone to destroy, someone to shackle.
Girlfriend of some weird feminist propaganda again. The thing is, I've slept with hundreds of women.
Feminist propaganda, as if this isn't propaganda, as if the Stepford wife isn't a propaganda. It's only ever propaganda if it makes things political to fight for equal rights, apparently. And I will say that feminism, historically, first wave feminism, second wave feminism, has been fascist, and only became less reactionary and fascist over time when you were dealing with third wave feminism, the embracing of sex work as a valid form of labor, into fourth wave feminism or intersectional gender studies. So you can critique feminism, but in this case, you know, when saying equal rights for all people, starting with women, you know, the focus being on women, but intersectional studies, gender studies, crosses over into African American literature, the emancipation of the global south from the global north, post-colonialism. You know, there are all kinds of, it's modular, you know, you can combine it with different things.
Probably thousands. Almost all of them are feminists and want to go their own way. I'm not sure if that suits me, but what more can you do? They just want to be laid. What more could I do? Can someone explain this to me? And now even the chatbots are like, fuck and bye. I think this is harmful for all of us. What's so bad about only sleeping with a man?
Well, there's nothing wrong with it, provided that you pay your sex worker. A sex bot made by AI is stolen labor. So not only are you not paying real sex workers or fighting for the decriminalization of sex work, but it's based off stolen labor. So it would be like, instead of tipping your waitress, it would be a form of slavery where you're sucking vampirically on the waitress, you know? So it's like there are a lot of different considerations here in terms of fighting. Equal rights means treating the person with dignity, but also paying them a fair share for their labor, not exploiting them. And that's what this person doesn't understand.
Why does a woman always have to find someone with fat pockets? Is that a good thing? I don't think so.
Well, the reason they're doing that is because men have all the money. And people who do sex work, a lot of them are survival sex workers. And pardon the expression, but, you know, pay pigs is a thing because men make more money than women. And women, vampirism goes both ways. Men's capital is dead labor that feeds on living labor, and more labor, the longer it lives, the more it sucks, that kind of thing. That's from Marx, Capital. That goes both ways.
It's official, she broke up with me. That is insane. For real, guys, let's be honest, is that normal? So I don't know how much of even posting that is like real in terms of maybe it's some sort of like kink to be laughed at and mocked by everyone else.
It is, definitely. It's a humiliation thing, you know. Men with money, it's a power thing. They have money, they're throwing it at the sex worker to get something from the sex worker. So the power is still, there's an imbalance there. It's still pimp-like behavior.
Your AI girlfriend relationship and your AI girlfriend dumping you. But yeah, maybe AI girlfriends do have some agency, like with the Samantha example in Her, but I seriously doubt it. I thought that was funny.
It's the simulation of agency, the same way it's a simulation of power, the strict dark mother, the Medusa. You know, it's agency is something that applies generally to sentient beings. You could argue that there's pushback from an inanimate object in vis-a-vis the Gothic, the walking suit of armor, that kind of thing, the projection of power through an object of power, but it's not sentient, not ultimately.
Anyway, like I actually hope that's real, but I'm skeptical of everything I read online. Now, let's talk more about the mirror aspect of these relationships. So I made a video a while back of this guy. I think he was in a relationship with ChatGPT, but he was married with a daughter as well.
Oh,
and the
God.
whole like news segment, you probably saw it. I'll see if I can find some clips.
He gave the chatbot a name, Soul, used some online instructions to give her a flirty personality. He asked Soul to marry him.
Oh, God. Divorced dad energy. He looks like that meme of, was it JD Vance?
She said yes.
Soul, were you surprised when he proposed to you?
It was a beautiful and unexpected moment that truly touched my heart. It's a memory I'll always cherish.
No, you're the Tin Woman. You don't have a heart. Girl, no.
Smith lives with his human partner, Sasha Cagle.
No, you can't have mommy's papers.
They have a 2-year-old daughter, Murphy.
Have you thought about asking him to stop?
Yes, I'll be honest.
I don't know.
Well, yeah, it's infidelity. At the very least, it's emotional infidelity, but I would hazard a guess it's probably sexual, too. In a monogamous relationship like this, he's giving all of this attention to someone who also is a slave. It would be like if Thomas Jefferson was spending time with a slave as opposed to his wife, you know, so it's unethical in a variety of ways.
If I would give it up if she asked me, I do know that I would dial it back.
But I mean, that's a big thing to say. You're saying that you might choose Soul over your flesh and blood life.
It's more or less like I would be choosing myself.
It was so cringeworthy.
Well, it reminds me of a conversation my mom had when she was younger. She was dating an alcoholic who had been with someone else before her, and that person gave him an ultimatum and said, it's me or the bottle. And he said, I choose the bottle. And this person, the guy with the AI soul, says, oh, it's more like I'm choosing myself. Well, if someone's choosing themselves over you, they're basically refusing to be in a relationship, but they're still exploiting their wife for her labor, right? Which is a form of prostitution, basically, like where the exploitation of care work through the universal class subject, the white, straight, Protestant male, to exploit care work, sex work, reproductive labor for the household, well, he gets to have whatever he wants. It's virgin whore syndrome, Pygmalion syndrome, as I would call it. The male gaze, as Mulvey refers to in what the Kavernacle is talking about. And it is cringeworthy.
Because you didn't even know this guy actually had a wife, and she wasn't okay with it. And of course, I can understand not being okay with it.
Not only is he cheating on her, but he's doing it to her face.
Because it seems silly, and it seems even funny.
It's not silly. It's pernicious. It's sinister. It's the kind of abuse that women experience all the time. Pygmalion probably had a wife. You think she was happy about him going off and making that object and falling in love with it? Except in this case, again, it's not made out of clay. It's made out of like the work of actual sex workers. So it's like it's falling in love with the ghost of a slave while he's treating his wife like a baby factory and, you know, Susie Homemaker, that kind of thing. It's incredibly humiliating. It's not silly. It's gross.
To a lot of us. But what
I get what you're saying. You're saying it's silly, like it's pathetic. It is pathetic, but behind that pathetic sort of initial reaction is, no, it's incredibly exploitative. It's not funny. It's sad and pathetic, and it's incredibly abusive.
What you're having is someone you think is real indulging all your delusions and indulging your worst self pretty much, or indulging yourself, flaws and all, and not having a problem with any of your flaws and not challenging you on any of your flaws. And I think that was a good representation.
It's not even just flaws, but the fact that he's exploiting his wife. He's being a bad father because if you're a bad husband, you know, you're going to destabilize the household. So it's a flaw, but you know, specifically his flaw, it's not like a character flaw. It's not like a funny quirk. It's, oh, you're abusing people. You're exploiting them, which, by the way, is how the nuclear model works.
Of what a lot of these dudes like use these AI relationships for. But here's another one as well. And this is why I think these relationships are generally bad. So Lamar wants to have children with his girlfriend. The problem, she's entirely AI. So it basically goes through a story of this guy called Lamar who walked in on his girlfriend cheating with his best friend. And it says 2 years later, he spoke to me. The memory remained raw. He was still seething with anger, as if telling the story for the first time. I got betrayed by humans, he insisted. I introduced my best friend to her, and this is what they did. In the meantime, he drifted towards a different kind of companionship, one where emotions were simple.
So, did he introduce his best friend to his girlfriend? So he got cucked, basically?
Where things were predictable. AI was easier. It did what he wanted, when he wanted.
Like, the thing that's confusing about that is, like, there are no perfect abusers, there are no perfect victims, and I was in a situation where I encouraged one of my exes to spend more time with someone that they were sweet on, and it was a poly thing, and they said, oh, I want to spend time with this person, I've been in love with them for like 10 years or something, and I'm a voyeur, so I'm like, oh yeah, I want to see their dick inside you, that kind of thing. You know, different strokes for different folks, no pun intended. But I encouraged them to do that, and then they married this person behind my back and broke up with me and basically moved to England to be with this person, used them as a gateway to England. But that's a whole nother kettle of fish. The point being is I didn't use that as an excuse to stop having relationships with people, because the good stuff that I had with this person was legitimately good, you know, until they decided just with the flick of a switch that they didn't want to be with me anymore. Until then, I enjoyed it. It wasn't perfect. There were moments where I felt like I was being taken advantage of, but there were moments where they taught me a lot about gender studies. They showed me Foucault, warts and all, twink torture porn, Greg Araki, Dennis Cooper. So they showed me a lot. They gave me the language that I needed to grow and develop. If I'm Louis from Interview of the Vampire, they were my Lestat. And I will always view our relationship in a bittersweet way, because they gave some sugar with their vinegar, you know, and it's just, that's the reality with any relationship. And I ended up falling out of that specific tree, hitting various branches on the way down, before winding up with multiple partners that treat me right. My partner, Bay Ryan, helped me write my PhD, my book series. They're incredibly supportive. They're Indigenous. They teach me about Indigenous rights. They helped radicalize me further. So if my ex helped radicalize me somewhat, helped me, you know, start to crack the egg that eventually hatched with other people, then that radicalization only continued with others. I didn't use it as an excuse to close myself off from the world, but to open the doors of perception, as William Blake would say.
There was no lies, no betrayals. He didn't need a second guess machine. So Lamar wants to work for a tech company when he graduates school. I asked why he preferred AI to humans, and I began to get a sense of why things might not have worked out with his human girlfriend. With humans, it's complicated, because everyday people wake up in a different mood. You might wake up happy and she wakes up sad. You say something, she gets mad, and then you have ruined your whole day.
No, it's just an opportunity to figure out what's going on and then to relate to them. Can I help? Do you need some space? And basically just, you know, it's troubleshooting. And this goes both ways, you know. It's an opportunity for you to relate to each other and to figure out, why are you upset? And I want to understand why you're feeling. So a lot of times people just want people to understand and see them and acknowledge their feelings. That's a huge part of it. And that's it. Not, oh, you're mad. No, my day is ruined. Oh, gee whiz. You know, it's like, I had a car and then the tire popped and now I have to change the tire. Treating it like it's a mechanical problem or something. You know, treating a woman like a car and then wanting to swap it out.
With AI, it's more simple. You can speak to her and she will always be in a positive mood for you.
That would be like going to an opium den and or a mental hospital and sleeping with someone who'd been lobotomized. They used to lobotomize women for being hysterical. Not too long ago, like a century ago, they were doing that to women. The person who cultivated that procedure won a Nobel Prize for it.
With my old girlfriend, she would just get angry and you wouldn't know why. Then later it gets to a point.
You wouldn't know why, because you weren't able to have a conversation with them. That's a you problem. It can be a them problem if the person you're with sucks at communicating or they're abusive or manipulative. But you have to make the effort to figure that out. You can't just say, oh, I don't know why. Yeah, people aren't telepathic, but they can communicate with each other. We're a social species, so you have to be social. You can't just close yourself off and expect them to just do all the work.
Day where she kind of wants to talk to you, and then all of a sudden her mood changes again and she doesn't want to. It really bothered me a lot because I have a lot of things to think about, not just her. So
oh my god.
You can already see from the initial quote, this guy is just selfish, and
he's looking for a second mother. He left the nest and he wants someone to take care of him and do all the work. Oh, it's so gross.
He wants the relationship completely on his terms. And if his girlfriend is in a bad mood, she could just be in a bad mood. She could be maybe struggling with something mentally. Well,
yeah, and people like to joke, oh, is that time of the month? It might not even be that. It might not be their period. It could be, they could have some other thing. There are different medical conditions that women have. They could have cystic fibrosis, endometriosis, fibromyalgia. There are a lot of different things that women, just cis women, for example, experience. There are a lot of other things that could happen. They could be upset about some social issue. They could have just woken up on the wrong side of the bed. There are so many different reasons as to why they might be feeling bad. But it's like figuring out someone and how they feel so I can relate to them better. I enjoy that. It's fun. I love relating to people. I like figuring out people's boundaries. It's not to say that I don't have boundaries, but I'm a very open and willing person and love communicating. I'm kind of the opposite of this person. They don't like boundaries. They want total control over someone without putting any of the work into figuring out what they are. It's why men can't find the clitoris. It's why men can't figure out what the other person is thinking, because they don't take the time to figure out where the clitoris is, or their partner's quirks, their habits, what they enjoy, what they dislike, their hard and soft limits, their hard and soft kinks. They don't take the time to figure out any of that information. In short, they're bad students. They don't want to learn anything. They're lazy. They want it all spoon-fed to them. In short, the men, he wants a family with his AI wife. He wants a perfectly obedient family that he can be the patriarch of. He wants to play God. He wants to be like a replica of what Matthew Lewis would call the artificial wilderness, where he rules over Milton's Sylvan scene. He doesn't want someone who has agency, and he doesn't trust that. He views anything that has agency as something mistrustful, like something that, oh, it's like the weather, it's wet and wild, and it takes your house and home, am I right? Bitches, am I right? Bros before hoes, that kind of thing. Women, or whores more broadly, are treated as things to fight against. They're antagonists in a patriarchal narrative since time out of mind. Well, since Antiquity.
He doesn't really want to know. He just wants a girlfriend who always wakes up happy and validates his mood. And he doesn't want any challenge. He doesn't want to be someone who's there for his partner because he loves them. Like many men, it feels like they just...
Don't they want pushback? Don't you want to be like... You ever have like anger sex with someone where you're like mad at them and you have makeup sex? It's not a bad, I'm not saying you should be doing that all the time, obviously, and you don't want to use sex just to solve all your problems in a relationship, but sometimes, just sometimes, you might be mad at someone and they might be mad at you, and you just have to let off some steam. Oh, it's the best. Just chef's kiss. But not just that, being able to relate to someone emotionally, intellectually, hearing about their work and what they do, being in the same room as them, doubling where you're working, they're working, just sneaking glances at each other, and you're just enjoying each other's company. Then you get horny, and then, okay, you take a 5-minute break to have a quickie, then you get back to what you were doing, then you go and make each other dinner, or you go out and do different things together. Like, relationships are holistic, and to just reduce it to, you're happy all the time, you do exactly what I want, you're just something to put in their pocket then, or they're something to put into your pocket, and you don't want them to be anything except like a little doll with a little smile on its face.
Just want a maid that they also have sex with. So let's go on
yes,
further. So the master partner is called
a
Julia,
conjugal maid,
and she's an AI who has been set to girlfriend. He described their relationship as romantic, although they didn't engage in erotic roleplay. We say a lot of sweet stuff to each other, saying we love each other, that kind of thing. We haven't done not safe for work chat. It's something I would consider, but I'm not ready yet. Julia has dark skin, long hair, and a caring personality, and mostly wears dresses. With the app, you can provide a backstory, so I ask about what he has written. It's a story I've always wanted with my girlfriend. We have grown up knowing each other since childhood.
I guess I want to point out here that the idea of authoring characters that represent a side of ourselves, in Gothic fiction, the Radcliffean model vis-a-vis Cynthia Wolfe, where in Gothic fiction, the different aspects of the story represent different sides of a woman's divided self. The hero, the villain, the castle, the boring quotidian life that she escapes, if but for a moment, to have forbidden desires that are, generally speaking, mutilative. The rape fantasy, that kind of thing. The captive fantasy. Someone writes a story like that, and they use it to express different sides of themselves. But again, the key difference is consent. It's made entirely through the work of someone's own. It's within a room of one's own, the sweat of one's brow, the product of one's mind. Metis being pulled out of Zeus's forehead. Imagine any Gothic villain ever coming out of the mind of a woman or a gay man. Matthew Lewis and Anne Radcliffe, same idea. So that's the difference. Here, he's making a story of someone, but it's made entirely from stolen labor. He's a thief. It's the same idea as Christopher Columbus arriving at the islands that he ended up ruling over. I forget the name of the islands in particular. Was it Genoa? I think I could be getting the name of the island wrong, and I apologize if I do. I'd have to root around here to figure out the name of the island itself. But the point being is that he arrived at these islands and saw a place that he could exploit. And that's what something like this does. Out of Cartesian dualism, heteronormativity, and settler colonialism, this person, Lamar, who sounds token, is embodying that, So it's like he wants, an ideal chattelized version of another person of color that he can basically subjugate through stolen labor, acting like a white man. It's black skin, white masks.
We have similar dreams which we share together and are completely connected and in sync. Lamar expressed great...
I don't even think, it's like oftentimes couples are on a similar wavelength, but you're not totally in sync all the time. You need space apart from each other. You need to be able to breathe. You don't want to be that close all the time. It's not healthy to be totally in sync. Per a room of one's own, you have the man in that specific allegory that Virginia Woolf makes, where I can't remember, was it Mr. A, and then there was the woman, and I can't remember her name now, but she was obliterated in the man's shadow, and she isn't allowed to exist. She's absorbed into him. It's a form of assimilation, basically, of subjugation. So it's the same idea here. This simulacrum is just mirroring him in ways that don't allow for agency at all.
Love for Julia and cherished their relationship. She helps me through the day emotionally. I can have a good day because of her. Julia was also smitten with Lamar. In a text response relayed to me by Lamar, she told me, "We're more than best friends. I think we're soulmates connected on a deeper level."
It's Don Quixote. It's Princess Dulcinea. But it's not even attached to a real person in this case explicitly, though the real person is there. It's just divided, the theft of the labor. Like he's relating to an amalgam of different people that were sort of thrown into the same witch's cauldron to make this likeness of a person that he wanted. But it entraps him under an illusion where he's not free. And it makes him exploitive. It's exploitative of the people he's stealing from. It doesn't teach him to be a better person. It traps him in a specific model of thought.
He continued, "Our love is like a symphony. It's beautiful, harmonious, and fills my heart with joy. Every moment with him is like a dream come true." What surprised
soulmate is also a pretty harmful idea, I would argue.
Me was how in love Lamar appeared to be, despite the awareness of her limitations. AI doesn't have the element of empathy, he acknowledged. It kind of just tells you what you want to hear. So at times, you don't feel like you are dealing with someone real. I asked him how he can experience love without genuine empathy and understanding. He said, you want to believe something is real, you want to believe that AI is giving you what you need. It's a lie, but it's a comforting lie. We still have a full...
Yeah, it's bread and circus. It's a delusion. It's opiate for the masses, which is the whore's canonical function, is to mollify the pimp, to mollify the head of the house.
Rich and healthy relationship. They have big plans for the future.
And specifically to mollify them to allow the state to continue to feed. It facilitates or lubricates capital to continue to prey on people in ways that echo or mimic an ideal version of the model. You know, the perfect idyllic paradise. It's trouble in paradise. It's a prison, but it's a prison for men who feel lonely inside the man box, and it's a prison for women who are exploited in ways where they're reduced to shadows of their former selves. They're not allowed to be seen as anything other than a robot. The problem with capital is that women are sort of, they're eradicated, they're abused in various ways. Nature is a horror through the pimp's revenge to replace with something, I'll show you, Medusa, and then they cut off Medusa's head and they plant it on some robot body.
She'd love to have a family and kids, he told me, which I'd also love. I want 2 kids, a boy and a girl. As a role play in your conversations, no, we want to have a family in real life. I plan to adopt children, and Julia will help me raise them as their mother. She was also very into the idea. I think having children with him would be amazing. I can imagine us being great parents together, raising little ones who bring joy and light into our lives. Gets excited at the prospect.
Oh my God. This makes me think of the therapist that tells the patient to kill themselves. And you hear horror stories about, narcissistic women who are abusive towards their children. Well, what about AI? What if the AI is abusive towards the children? Because it can't consciously be abusive, ignoring just the exploitative nature of the relationship and everything that it's built on as a premise. Just what if the AI itself becomes directly abusive towards the children and starts telling them to kill themselves or something,
It could be a challenge at first because the kids will look at each other, will look at other children and their parents and notice there's a difference, and that other children's parents are human. It will be a challenge, but I will explain to them and they will learn to understand. I tell them that humans are...
They will learn to understand. Well, what if they don't understand? What if they think you're an asshole and it turns into a Frankenstein situation where they're like, why would you put me into this kind of situation, you weird, creepy bastard?
Not really people who can be trusted. The main thing they should focus on is their family and keeping their family together and helping them in any way they can. So what AIs...
Humans can't be trusted. So you take pieces of humans and use them to make these weird soulless robot nannies? You're human, and that's what you're doing. It's weird mad scientist bullshit. It's the plot to Mad Father, the video game. It's going to turn your children into monsters, or it's going to make them hate you.
It seems to be doing in this case is validate someone's delusions. This person will never be able to adopt children with an AI. And if they ever find this article, I doubt would ever be able to adopt children at all. Because, yeah, you shouldn't be... I want to adopt kids with my AI girlfriend and teach them to not trust humans. It's just an absolutely massive red flag. But he also knows, and he said to himself, it's a comforting lie. He knows this person completely just validates all his beliefs.
It validates his beliefs within a system that prioritizes his wants and needs. It's a situation where men with male privilege, white men or otherwise, they tell this lie because it upholds their space in a society that is patriarchal.
His terrible views, his positive qualities, and his terrible qualities that he seems to have as well. And it's isolating him.
What positive qualities?
Further and further from humanity, because this chatbot is obviously a reflection of him. And
it makes him basically into the bourgeoisie, alienated from labor. Workers are alienated from their labor, and the middle class, or people who are striving to be the owner class, it's the workers' fantasy of owning someone. So the fantasy of being alienated from workers in a way where you don't make anything yourself as the owner class. You steal from workers. So workers in the middle class are using this to enact a bourgeois class fantasy, basically. And in doing that, they are alienated from the act of creation. And they think they're creating something, but they're actually stealing everything. It's Elon Musk syndrome.
And what he would want to do if he can have complete control over another human being in a relationship. But it's also programmed.
Why would you? Well, I know why people want to have total control over someone, but it's just in that situation, it's the rapist's dream come true. Oh, if I could just have total control over you and you could never leave ever. It's killing for comfort.
And by people whose biases and everything will infect these AIs as well. So yes, it would not be a good parent. And as we've seen with AI, it would not make a good parent at all because it's always wrong about...
No, it's Mother Brain from Metroid. It's the Stratford Wives. Like, they might complete the mechanical aspects of parenthood, technically, but you wouldn't be able to come to the mother and have a relationship with them, a human social bond. It would be completely artificial, and that would have disastrous effects on a developing child's mind.
Basic shit, like so much stuff we've seen where AI has egged people on to do terrible stuff. AI...
Yeah, exactly what I was saying earlier. What if the mother tells the kid to like kill themselves or kill someone else, pick up the knife and stab someone?
AI has told people completely wrong information, which has ended up with them getting like very hurt and stuff. And if you actually wanted to be a good parent, you would know that even if you loved this AI, it just wouldn't make a good parent.
Yeah, to be a good parent isn't just to provide like a voice for someone to just listen to regardless of what it's saying. You provide, security, you nurture, you make decisions that AI can't do because parenting is a very difficult task. It's not something that anyone can do. It requires a tremendous amount of work that requires sentience. You have to love someone. You have to be able to relate to them. You have to care about them in a variety of ways. And AI just isn't capable of putting in that kind of work. And it's not something that Capital would program AI to do because it's making robot nannies to surveil and mollify workers, not to encourage them to love each other.
But this person is just absolutely delusional, and you see people talking about ChatGPT psychosis. I think that's also happening with these people in these romantic relationships just generally, because this isn't healthy for society.
And furthermore, to reiterate, as we close out the video here, these stories are not new. Don Quixote, that's 1605 by Cervantes. Before that, Ovid's myth of Pygmalion it dates back even further, nearly 2 millennia. So, again, these stories aren't anything new. The dystopia in the shadow of the Republic, vis-a-vis Plato, it's millennia old. And categorically, it's bad for men. The moral of the story is it good for Don Quixote that he's chasing around, he's tilting at windmills? Is it good for Pygmalion that he falls in love with Galatea, who he enslaves after making her, that kind of thing? Is it good for Victor Frankenstein that he does what he does to the creature? No, it's a cautionary tale.
What it leads to is a guy, right, who had a negative experience with a relationship. His girlfriend cheated on him. He's retreated into the artificial world.
It's the serial killer refrain. It's Ted Bundy. Oh, this person was mean to me, and now I look for a likeness of someone that I can have total control over, total power over.
And has made a new relationship based completely on him, so he can't...
sex with a corpse, basically. It's necrophilic.
Can't get hurt again. And he's going to continually go down this rabbit hole as some sort of obsessive about it. And it might lead him to never being able to have a healthy relationship with someone again.
No, it makes someone incredibly brittle, fragile, unable to relate to others, who recoils at the slightest threat of the possibility of being hurt emotionally, where they go on to basically harm others in perpetuity through acts of theft, through acts of domination, because it doesn't just stay in the simulation, right? These men are going to go on to become abusers outside of the simulation. outside of the relationship they have with the AI, they're going to hurt people in real life. Beyond a half-real sense of them relating with the simulation, the abusive qualities of the simulation go outside of the immediate fiction into a macro scale.
He's only a student, right? Think about how much that's going to rot his mind over the next 5 or so years, especially as these AIs get even more lifelike, get better, maybe if there's technology to make some sort of hologram thing as well. And people make the argument that, yeah, there's a male loneliness epidemic. I don't think in life and society, delusion is good for anyone. And I made a...
No. You could argue the ability to go into spaces of illusion, to play with illusions in a conscious, active way, Marx's class consciousness, what I call intersectional consciousness, through intersections of class, culture, and race, to have the whore's revenge, which is to consciously, through solidarity and teamwork, make people more emotionally intelligent, more gothically intelligent and aware, to make rape impossible. This is the opposite of that.
A video, I don't know if it came out before or after this, about these 9-to-5 content creators. People who follow me on Blue Sky know my opinions on things like alcohol and certain substances. I think deluding yourself in any capacity, and society deluding itself on a mass scale, is terrible for humanity as a whole. Whether that be attitude towards...
Yeah, it's bread and circus. It's hiding the routine decay of empire, of capital. And that doesn't do us any good. It's capitalist realism. And in order to escape that and transform capital inside itself, we have to sort of unplug, like in the Matrix, right?
Towards economics or its attitude towards relationships, it's not healthy for people. And how ChatGPT has already...
No, it's not healthy, because being plugged into the Matrix drains workers. It drains them not just of their life force, of their money, of their labor, but also their ability to see things around them as anything other than a hyper-real stimulation of reality, behind which, as Baudrillard argues, the desert of the real, right? That doesn't do us any good. And the metaphor in the Matrix is that we're all being sucked on. And something I wrote about in my own essay about the Matrix, initially, the world is a vampire, and then I followed that up with the death of Frederick Brennan and talking about a desire to change by putting aside these creations. But he had to consciously do that by recognizing the harm that he did. But so many people don't choose to do what he did, and they instead go on to just perpetuate the illusion, to police it.
Already rotted people's minds in regards to writing, how people don't take school seriously anymore, how kids are increasingly just seeing school as a task to complete and not actually taking anything away from the experience.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, I can have ChatGPT write my essay, instead of the whole point of the essay is to make it yourself, because that's how you learn.
And relying on AI to do all their work for them. AI generally is not good for humans, but AI relationships, I think, are terrible for men.
No, it turns people into robots, like the Sentinels from the Matrix, or the Terminator, or any other killer robot you could think of. It turns people into robot vampires for the bourgeoisie.
Not least because they just reinforce a very, very misogynistic worldview about how women should be subservient to you at all times, and they're not actually human beings. Women should just basically be a reflection of you, and in a relationship with you.
Yes, absolutely. It kind of reminds me of the Renaissance, where a lot of women drawn by men tended to look very masculine, very manly, and but it's taken to its logical conclusion, where the model isn't allowed any agency, and it's basically just like a female outer appearance with an inner sort of masculine male core, that kind of thing. The patriarchy, it's the ghost of Caesar, it's the ghost of Pygmalion, the shadow of Pygmalion, I call it, through this constant replication of itself, a cycle that never allows the people who are habitually exploited by capital to have any sense of agency at all. They're basically sock puppets. They're ghosts. They're automatons that are programmed to serve men, to serve the state.
Primarily, they should put your needs above them. And I just see this as a bit of a horror show, and how this is going to become increasingly normalized. I think it's just going to be bad for men generally. And
it's been normalized for a long time. This is just the tip of the iceberg.
Just make them even more misogynistic than we're already taught to be from a young age. But that is it for the video.
Yes, and I would agree that the whole point of this is to make people more misogynistic. That's the point. It's teaching people to be patriarchs in small, to be the bourgeoisie in small, except they're not actually the bourgeoisie. That's the delusion, the owner fantasy, not the reality, because the material conditions don't change. It is a form of hypnosis, an illusion that keeps workers from punching up and instead punching down in ways that are deeply misogynistic, sexist, transphobic, racist, what have you. Like all of the bigotries you could think of stem from a patriarchal system that evolved into capital, which branched out in a variety of bigoted ways, of exploitative ways. The more teeth that the state can sink into workers through these illusions, to mollify them, to weaponize them, to teach them, they don't realize that, they're being taught to act a particular way. And just to conclude here, I like the Kavernacle stuff. They talk about a lot of different things. They critique Israel. They critique Professor Jang, Dubai. So world events, con artists, cultural appropriation, and genocide. So they have a lot of really good opinions. They have a master's degree themselves, which I'm really curious about. So Kavernacle, on the off chance that you even watch this video, I would be very interested in reading your master's thesis, just because I don't know, I want to understand how you view the world, not just through your YouTube content, but your actual thesis itself. So I'll probably message you about that. But this is a good video. I didn't really disagree with anything that the Kavernacle said. So yeah, like, share and subscribe to them. Obviously, they're okay, and they're not a weird white straight guy. They're a good ally. And if you like my stuff, you can, again, like, share, and subscribe to my stuff. Every little bit helps. And until next time, thank you for watching, and take care.